Hello, Internet. It's Cameron from Venus Theory. I just got done eating dinner, and I decided to fire up the stream while I explore the Reason 11 suite in a bit more detail. Hey, Google. Hey, Google. Set the office lights to 100% brightness. Cue lighting. What a professional streamer am I. All right, so yeah, basically the folks at Reason Studios got in touch with me after my initial stream of Reason 11, and they let me know they actually meant to send me a license for Reason 11 Suite, which is like the full super edition, comes with everything. So I just wanted to do another stream just kind of exploring some of the new features with you guys, some of the new instruments, and just show what the Suite edition has as compared to Reason 11, which is what I streamed with a couple days ago. So I'm going to go ahead and just wait for DAWg to boot up here, and this will give everyone time to join in on the stream if they'd like to check it out. Just had dinner. Alicia made rotisserie chicken, garlic and lemon asparagus, and garlic and cheese potatoes, and then dinner rolls. It was really, really, really good. And I had Apothic Dark. It's a dark red wine. It's really good. So how's your evening going? Navi Love. Hey, what's up, dude? Virtual Realm. Yay, Venus Theory stream. All right. Okay, DAWg is open. All right, let's do this. Let me do that, and let's make sure my sound is working, because sometimes the audio driver is a bit funky. All right, cool. All right, so Reason 11 Suite. I should probably get a tab in Chrome open. Let me just obscure that information really quick. Reason Studios. Blah, 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 blah. White balance looks weird. Yeah, I have the color temperature down because it's nighttime. My lights do that automatically. Let's do that mode. There we go. That should look better. Okay. So Reason 11. Compare editions. Okay, so what is different than the other day that I want to explore? So there's some new instruments for sure, which is the thing I'm most interested in. In particular, Complex 1 and Parsec 2 are really, really dope in the time I've spent with them. And then there's just a bunch of like little things, some extra keys. Quadrasonic and Layers Waves edition are pretty cool. And then some like drum kits and stuff. Effects-wise, we get a pitch shifter and a rotary speaker, which maybe is something you are interested in. I don't really have all that much use for it, but they do sound good. And then we also get the drum sequencer, which I wanted to explore a bit. Quad note generator, which I believe we could use to do some generative stuff. We might try that really quick. And polystep sequencer is polyphonic step sequencer. I haven't actually used this yet. Okay, so it's just, yeah, like a DAW in a DAW type of thing. Combinator, what else? Okay, so we get everything else. All right, sweet. So let's go ahead and dive into some of these new instruments first. So instruments, let's kick things off with Complex 1. So this is Reason Studios' take on modular synth stuff. And the first patch is called Canada. Which is a very, very Boards of Canada sound. I don't know about you guys. I love Boards of Canada. I recently got into them maybe about a year ago now. I can't quite remember, but a very, very accurate sound. And funny enough, this is actually a great way to get that sound, is actually using white noise as FM modulator to whatever. It's a really, really great way to get some cool randomized drift. So I've explored this a little bit, and it's got some really good presets. This one I thought was particularly cool, because this shows off... Let me just mute this really quick. This shows off the abilities of Complex One pretty well. So Complex One, you've got, a modular synth. You've got just a bunch of stuff that you can rearrange and patch together however you would like, which is really, really cool. Well, Bitwig 3 just got the grid. I don't know any other DAW, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know any other DAW that natively comes with a modular synth, I guess, unless you count Max for live. But yeah, so this is a particularly cool patch because it's a pretty fully featured in that it uses like all the coolest parts. So we get the oscillators, noise, whatever, but you actually have a step, sequencer and quantizer, and then all these other little bits and bobs, which I'll tweak here in a moment. But check this out, it's actually kind of cool. So it's quantized to a scale, and you can just kind of let it go, which is pretty fun. So let's mix in just a couple of these effects and whatnot here. But a really neat patch. There's a couple others. So yeah, that's Complex One in a nutshell. It's really, really cool. In the back here, you get a couple extra little inputs and whatnot, so you can mess with this in some pretty fun ways, using, extra LFOs and whatnot. But all around, actually a really, really good sounding synth. Honestly, probably one of my favorite oscillators. I don't know what it is, like in the little bit of time I've had with it, just something about the oscillators to this sounds a bit different to my ear. And yeah, I really like it. Because, I really like Voltage Modular, and Voltage Modular also has something to the sound of just the raw oscillators that I really like. But yeah, this is pretty fun in its own right. It's got some really good, features. The shaper in particular can be pretty cool. I wish I understood a bit better, like, what these are. I think this is just, different wave shaping algorithms, and really, really cool sounds are possible with this, especially just, running noise into it and just messing with it. It's pretty fun. Okay, so moving along. We have Layers and Layers Wave Edition. So Layers, oops, we need to delete this. Let's just delete everything. Okay, so Layers and Layers Wave Edition. So this is, I guess, a multi-layer sample thing. Kind of like just, I don't know, stacking a couple instruments within Kontakt, I guess is the best way I can describe it. But a lot of really cool sounds. There's some cool, I think it was this one. I think it was this one, and I just played like a really low note. Something like that, yeah. So pretty cool, just, extra sample player. And I think this has different sounds than the native Reason samples. But yeah, you get a couple cool, like, poly synths. Let's see. This one was cool, I think. Very 80s, but pretty neat stuff. There was one other patch I wanted to show in here. I think it was this one. So yeah, some pretty cool sounds. It's a bit maybe retro in scope. Everything I've noticed in it, it kind of reminds me of just the old like Yamaha and Roland like rack units. But it's very good at that. And you know, sometimes you need these types of sounds. So if that's something you're into, you know, synthwave or you know, whatnot, this is actually a really good just starting point to mess with it. There's a lot of really good sounds in it. Okay, which brings us to Wave Edition. So, to my understanding, this is just kind of like more synth-oriented patches rather than, you know, like acoustic sample set library things. And again, a very, you know, retro at heart. So yeah, if you're into synthwave and those kind of things, pretty interesting. And yeah, this has a couple features. So there's, you know, some filter stuff, just basic filter types. Octave control, you get a little distortion. I'm not sure if you can change like the type or anything. But you know, you get a distortion thing, flanger, delay, reverb, and you can pan the individual layers. So, you know, you could layer up multiple sounds. I'm not sure if these are actually just single cycle waveforms or if these are actual multi-samples, but you know, you could put something together, pan it out, add different amounts of like distortion and reverb and delay to different voices. So it's actually very capable of, you know, pretty complex things. That's really all I got to say about that one. Okay, Parsec we're going to come back to because that one's got a lot of stuff going on. Polar pitch shifter can also hold buffer, which is epic for making pad. Oh, interesting. Complex is audio effect. You can use audio inputs and throw it shape or resonate. Yeah, I messed with that a little bit earlier. I didn't have all that much time to dive into it. Layers for retrowave, yeah. But yeah, so that's pretty much wave and stuff. Okay, so process pianos. This is another set of piano sounds and stuff. Let's go ahead and just start off with like this sound. And this is kind of like the Contact prepared piano libraries of like weird sounds. So you could choose a couple combinations and kind of design your own. Now, I haven't had time to read all the documentation about this, but I believe this is sort of based on the same thing as Radical Piano, if I'm not mistaken. So it's like sort of physical modeling, sort of sample based. Like I said, I haven't read the documentation, so I'm not totally sure, but I think that's the case. So anyways, you get 3 pianos that you can layer together. And you can blend in the effects here, which I think depends on the model. I'm not totally sure. Anyways, so yeah, you can have all three or just one or two or whatever you want to do. But, you know, some solid piano sounds to start out with. And then there's some more interesting stuff going on in here. So let's go to gently processed pianos. I want to say it was Trail. So, you know, some cool little like delay effects. Then you get into the heavily processed stuff, which is a bit more interesting. I really appreciated the name Flat Mars Society, though. So, you know, just some kind of weird, interesting pianos that you could use to fill out. Oops, we don't need to play that. You know, we just like fill out a mix, add some interesting effects. Maybe it was vocal. Yeah, so there's some really weird. And then you get a bit of control here over, you know, just a few like standard parameters to customize this a bit to your liking. And then I don't think there was really anything else too crazy. Yeah, just, you know, filter, a couple other things, multi-tap echo, so you could design like a weird reverb echo delay combination. So, you know, you could have like a really extreme reverb, and then, you know, you get full control over this multi-tap echo, so you could pan and filter the different voices. The filter, I'm not sure if there was multi-modes. I think it goes high pass and low pass, if I'm not mistaken. So you could design like a really ridiculous delay thing. Okay, and sure, here we go. Yeah, so prepared pianos, or processed pianos rather, pretty cool stuff. You know, like I said, just a interesting starting point. And then, you know, you can just kind of design your own weird sound. Pretty cool stuff. Okay, radical keys. This is, again, very certain, based on the same idea as the piano. So like part physical modeling, part sample based. And this is kind of based around the same interface. You can combine different mics. So we could do a room and line and blend between these differently. And then pretty much all the same controls. So you can up some of the noise and stuff here. You could add a bit of spring reverb. Let's do a overdrive. Let's do a tremolo. Sure, and this should give us a pretty straightforward electric piano Rhodesy type thing. Bit too deep on that. So, my only thing with this is a lot of it sounds very thin. Not totally my favorite electric piano sound, but very usable, and in a mix, I'm not really sure you would tell, especially, you know, once you get drums and stuff going and, you know, a nice bass patch to fill in the bottom end. Soft Roads and I think Tape Deluxe were really good ones. So one of the interesting things, though, was how this reacts dynamically. So if you listen here, it responds really well to velocity. Because, you know, if you've ever played a real, like, Rhodes or something, the softer you play, it's a very delicate, almost glassy sound. And this gets that really, really, like, spot on. And if you really get after it, you get this nice barky, aggressive sound. So, you know, they did a good job on that. Tape Deluxe. Pretty good sound. Yeah, pretty much it for Radical Keys. Pretty straightforward. Okay. Okay, so let's dive into a couple of these other ones. So drum kits, pretty standard set of drum tools. So this is kind of like addictive drums, sort of, in a way. So you get actually a lot of control over the drum sounds, which is really, really cool. And especially in conjunction with like Pulverizer and Scream and stuff, you can make some ridiculous drum sounds. So, you know, if you're into like drum and bass or whatever, I can't really play something fast because like the latency is too weird when I'm streaming, but... Or if, I mean, you know, you just want to make like a rock song or something. Actually, a really decent drum library. Let's go ahead and clear this out. Delete device. That's not what I wanted. Let's go ahead and grab that again. So there's a pretty good variety of drums. And I really like some of the kind of like lo-fi hip hop stuff, vintage soul and funk. Yeah, like I was making just some random like D&B breaks with this earlier. Really, really good sounds to start out with. And like I said, you know, in conjunction with Scream and Pulverizer, you can make some wicked drum sounds out of this. Outside of that, yeah, you get some pretty nice controls. So you can kind of tune the drums, you know, to suit your track. There's a decay control, which is really handy. So if you want that snare to be tighter, you get different controls for the microphones. So like, you know, if you have your snare top, which is, you know, more like the tonal-ish element, and the bottom is where your actual snares are going to be, so you could brighten up the snare, but, you know, tweak the balance between the two however you would like. Leakage controls for overhead and room, which is really nice. So if you don't want, I don't know, natural is probably the wrong word to describe it, but if you don't want like an acoustic drum kit quality and you want kind of like that sampled feel, you could kill the leakage, which provides just a direct, you know, sound of the snare drum without the resonance of the room and everything else happening. EQ, transient, and distortion, really, really handy stuff. So you can further shape these drums. And that was pretty much it. Then, yeah, you get controls for everything else. So the overhead, room, and master effects. So overhead and room, you get your width, compressor, EQ, and distortion. Compression on overhead and room mics is really important because that can really impact the overall sound of your drum mix. If you've ever dealt with like an acoustic drum mix before. Master effects, reverb, compressor. And then you get some settings here. So I think you can like actually come in here and, or you can't. Yeah, you can remap it based on what you want. So if you're, you have a, like an MPC or whatever, and you've got pads, you can remap it to pads. Otherwise, original, I believe, just follows general MIDI standards. Trying to remember if there were any like super wicked drum kits. Some of the experimental ones were cool. That one, I don't know why, it just makes me want to make like a random hipster indie rock song. Indie kit. So yeah, that's pretty much the drum kits. Really solid drum library all around. There's a lot of really usable stuff in there. Okay, electric bass. All right, chat's going on. Let's go through chat really quick. Like the way everything sounds. Yeah, Reason has a really good library of just stuff. It's really impressive. I want to do electronic music, but I only have access to GarageBand. Is it a good place to start, or is there a better website or app to go to? Yeah, GarageBand's totally usable. I'm pretty sure it offers full VST support, so you know, as long as you're comfortable with the workflow of GarageBand, there's really not a reason you can't use it. You know, it's got all the basic features you need: EQ, compressors, reverbs, whatnot. You know, because GarageBand is basically just Logic, but the light edition. And, you know, people have produced phenomenal records in Logic. And I really don't see a reason you couldn't do so in GarageBand. You know, with the right synths and know-how, totally doable within GarageBand. I would definitely check out, like, you know, VST for free. All the other, like, random free VST collection websites. Even Plugin Boutique has a great set of free VSTs. You could go search around for like free synths and whatnot. Or I guess GarageBand might use AAX or whatever the Apple one is. But yeah, you know, GarageBand totally doable. Does GarageBand support VST instruments, VST3 in particular? I don't know if GarageBand does VST. I'm not a Mac person. I haven't used like a Mac-based system in forever. But, I mean, you could Google it. I'm sure there's something out there. Reason as a rack in GarageBand. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, the Reason, if you're like just starting out, honestly, like Reason 11 intro is a hell of a deal for just ridiculous amounts of features. And I know they plan to, from what I've seen, it sounds like they plan to add AAX support if VST is not available in GarageBand. I really don't know. But yeah, so if you bought this for $99, which honestly is way cheaper than all your I mean, Serum is like what, 150? So for $100, $50 less than Serum, and you know, not knocking Serum here. Serum's a hell of a powerful synth. But you get Europa, which Europa alone is insane. So yeah, for $100 you get Europa, Thor, Monotone, which is a great super bassy synth, Subtractor, Kong, Rhythmic, Redrum, Dr. Octo Rex Player, NNXT, which has a huge sample library, NN19, ID8, Grain, and everything else after that is going to be reserved for Reason 11. So as a starting point, instruments-wise alone, that's a wicked amount of stuff. And then there's some pretty decent effects as well. Audiomatic, Scream 4, which is dope. RV7000, which is a convolution reverb, so you can use that for some really cool sound designy stuff. Bass, guitar amp, and then just kind of all the standard effects. But yeah, for $100, not bad. I like watching this kind of stuff. I don't understand most of it. No problem. Most of this, I wish I knew what most of the stuff meant. It all comes with time. I mean, honestly, dude, when I first started out, I didn't know a goddamn thing. Like, as a reference point, when I first started getting into audio engineering and whatnot, I didn't know what faders did. Like, when you do this, I didn't understand that, and I didn't use them for the longest time. I always just left it as it was, and I manually, in a program called Acoustica Mixcraft, I would manually envelope everything because I didn't understand faders, and I thought they weren't important. But yeah, it all comes with time. Okay, so electric bass. This is just an electric bass instrument. So you can select a couple different types of bass. There's P bass. And then you can select a couple different types of amps here. So these are the different microphones, I believe. So we get U47 on an Ampeg. Which I will say, funny enough, for like a bass VST, there's not a whole lot of low end. But as you blend different things together, you can get a nice solid bass sound. So what you see here is DI and amp. If you, I assume some of you guys have never like recorded actual stuff. So when you record bass for like a rock album, or I mean, really just bass in general, if you're recording a bass player, typically what you do is you run the bass and do a splitter, and you'll run one part of that into an amplifier, which has a microphone, and then you'll run the other half directly into your console, which is DI, or direct injection. So this way you can get the DI signal, which usually retains the transients and stuff a bit more thumpy and sharp, and then you get the amp, which of course is like your nice, amplified bass sound. So you can kind of blend between the two and get, a bit more of that transient and clear tone versus a bit more of, whatever the amp may be doing, whether it's like very distorted or whatever. So Fender bass amps. And pretty much it. Just, a couple different mic types and 2 different amps. So pretty standard stuff. Sounds pretty decent. And then you can do the articulation here. So you can get those nice, slides. And then here you can select somehow, oh yeah, F and P. F is fingered and P is pick. So some bass players use a pick, some bass players use their fingers, and you can select between those two because it provides a bit of a different sound. And then in here, forget how you get into this. Yeah, so it's just certain models that have multiple pickups. You can blend between the pickups. So you can go to the bridge pickup, which provides a bit of a brighter tone and a bit more, thumpy, and the neck, which is going to be a bit rounder and darker. So actually a pretty fully featured bass instrument. Pretty cool stuff. And then you can go in here and add a couple extra things. So compressor, drive, chorus, and an EQ. So we could bring up a bit of that low end stuff. We need to turn this on. Maybe grab a bit of drive. There we go. We got a nice, rock bass sound. So pretty good sounding stuff. Very fully featured for sure, being able to blend between the different mics and whatnot. Okay, let's go into the drums and stuff here, and then we'll go into Scenic and then Parsec. What's going on in Chatland? Beers and Beats. Yo, what's going on, man? You don't need to own Reason 11 to get the rack, question mark. Okay, so, oops, sorry. So Reason basically kind of rebranded and reapproached what they do. So they are now Reason Studios rather than Propellerhead, and Reason 11 now functions as a VST. This rack VST, which is what you see here. So when you buy Reason, you also get access to the rack VSTs. So buying them is one and the same. So with this, I also have a copy of Reason 11, the actual DAW, which I, like I said in the first stream, I really haven't spent enough time, honestly, to form like a good opinion about it. I got confused, and I don't have time to like sit there and try and make something in another DAW just because, you know, like I'm busy and have stuff to do. But yeah, so when you buy Reason, you get this VST. So you can kind of think of it either way. If you are brand new to music production, this gets you a DAW and a bunch of instruments and samples and stuff. If you've already been a producer for a while, you already have a DAW of choice, whatever. You just get, you know, whatever package you want that includes the instruments you want. So, you know, all around very solid investment, especially Reason 11 Intro. If you just want like a set of new instruments to explore, it comes with 11 instruments for $100, which, like I said on my previous stream, you know, even on like a Black Friday deal, that's a lot of stuff. And then on top of that, yeah, you get effects and 2.5 gigs of samples, which is quite a bit. From there, Reason 11, which is what I streamed with the other day, has a whole mess of content. And then what I'm showing here is the extra stuff on top of that, which is Reason 11 Suite, which comes with everything in the kitchen sink, essentially. Martin, yo, hey, what's going on? Realm, there's a question I wanted to ask in the last stream you did, but I wasn't able to see it. Can I ask it? The 10K one. Yeah, go for it. In the meantime, let's quickly go over Oomph Club Drums. So this is another set of drum sounds, and this one is more, I guess focused on like the modern drum stuff, sort of. I'm in the wrong octave on that. So this is kind of like I said, just more of a modern drum VST. But it also has a lot of like classic, you know, 808, 909, whatever type sounds. Let's go in here. Let's grab another kit. Yeah, let's grab another one. So pretty solid stuff, and you get quite a bit of shaping controls here. So we can go in here and draw in the envelope, so we could tighten this whole sample up. We could change, you know, the release of it. Within here, EQ, and I think this is fully selectable. I'm not sure if it changes per pad, but you get bit crusher, distortion, and envelope filter, so you can make kind of like a talky thing. Here, distortion-wise, you get 3 modes. Trans, I think this is transistor, like 99% sure. Tube and hard being a digital hard clipping distortion. I guess similar to like the effect you would expect from distorting with a very cheap guitar pedal. So let's go ahead and just go through one here. So let's turn on this distortion. So you could actually drag in your own samples here. And I was actually doing that a bit today to test it out. Tube. And hard. So some pretty cool, you know, distortion types. EQ is pretty self-explanatory. Chop here is probably best demonstrated on one of the hi-hats. Let's do this one. Okay, so chop. Let's go and just turn up the probability here. is kind of a glitchy, I don't know, delay is kind of the wrong word. But yeah, so it just adds some cool stuttery, glitchy effects, which in conjunction with the sequencer, you can get some kind of cool, complex drum patterns out of it. Delay, reverb, and compressor, pretty straightforward. Reverb, couple selectable types, which is nice. I think it was the medium plate was actually a really, really good sounding reverb. But yeah, you know, just another drum VST, just kind of a different take on the library. It includes retro beats, is essentially the same thing, but much more focused on classic drum machine samples, which I'm sure you can tell right away. I will say though, if you are into producing lo-fi or you're into producing like boom bap, hip hop, or anything that, you know, maybe draws from those styles somewhat, this is an amazing library to have. There's a ton of really, really solid, you know, just kits and things that are ready to go. Let's try one more here. So, you know, really solid library of just different retro drummy things. Which one was that? It's an interesting one. I don't know why it reminds me of what was that movie, Space Jam. Ton of epic good RE instruments and effects in shop that are exclusive to Reason. Yeah. No, that, you know, getting into the third party stuff too, there's a ridiculous amount of content out there. Let's see, should we just move on to Scenic? Yeah, because that's pretty much it besides Parsec. Okay. What else is going on in chat here? Are you thinking about making another EP, like maybe part 2 to Nightwalker? Yeah, so when I released Nightwalker part 1, that was kind of like what I was doing at the time was just music, and I would like to do another EP someday, and I considered doing it again just recently here in like the last couple months. I have a bunch of like songs and like a bunch of song titles that need music. So I was going to do an EP, but like with how much I work and how I tend to approach music and stuff, I'm not sure doing another EP is like a good idea, at least in a reasonable amount of time. But I might save some songs as I finish them and then release the unreleased stuff as an EP in the future. But, you know, like trying to stay relevant in music is a matter of like consistently releasing. And it takes me so long to do a song just because of like, you know, how much I work on like sound design and other stuff. And that kind of takes priority just because it pays more. You know, so yeah, it's not out of the question, but for the time being, probably not. But like I said, I might save just a collection of songs kind of as they are done. And then, you know, release every other song, I suppose. And then, you know, whatever I didn't release, you know, build up 5 of them, tack it together in an EP and be done with it. But, you know, I'm not sure I'll ever approach music that way again, just due to the amount of time it would take me. Okay, so Scenic here. This is I guess, I don't really remember how they described it, as a cinematic instrument, something like that. Where are we at here? Cinematic dream machine of atmospheric sounds, textures, and powerful performance controls. So this is actually one I was pretty excited for. It has a really, really cool library. So this guy, really cool set of sounds. We can change some of these controls here. I actually really like this interface. So pretty cool stuff, and I think this was actually just updated today. To allow for user sample import, which Navi Retlov helped me out with a bit earlier. So this is basically just a granular engine / sampler playback with some cool effects and stuff just to make cinematic sounds accessible to people who aren't super duper into sound design. I haven't finished reading the manual for this, so forgive me, but basically you get a whole mod matrix of stuff here. 2 LFOs, pulse, which is like a stutter effect, I guess. If I remember correctly, filter envelope, amp envelope. You can select modulators here, and then the modulation amount is controlled with this knob. Filter, there's standard filter types, high pass, band pass, selection of low passes, key tracking. You get this mod here. Trying to remember what else we got here. This is the pitch, I'm pretty sure. Let's hover over it and see. Maybe. Not sure. Okay, so this is the sample engine, granular rate, size, random position, and random pitch, and the start position. And you can actually drag in your own stuff here. Let's grab a random. Sure. And we need to go to user sample. Found that out earlier. Okay, so now we've got bathtub water. Let's go to engine B. Use this other sample of my bathtub. Wow. Spooky. Pretty cool stuff. I find the coolest thing about it, like I said, is just it brings those kind of cool cinematic sounds right to you. You don't have to like really dive in and like build everything up from the ground up. You know, you get a really nice delay, a nice reverb. The master effects here, you get reverb, compressor, and then macro. These are the controls on this front panel here. So I believe that you can tie these to whatever you want really in the mod matrix. I don't really know if there's many restrictions, but yeah, so you can, you know, use this to drop in whatever you want or just use the presets and really quickly get some cool impact effects, riser effects, you know, whatever you want to do. It's actually a really, really cool little thing. And in the Reason Discord, I think people are talking about the point between this and grains. And I think that's kind of it. It's like I said, it's got a really good preset library and it's very straightforward to drop in your own stuff and make something, you know, really cool and weird without having a ton of knowledge on how to really dive in and do that. Okay, this brings us to Parsec, which is the spectral synthesizer. This is Parsec 2. I'm not sure when it became Parsec 2, but this is very, very cool, and as Navi pointed out, is actually a badass vocoder as well. Let's go ahead and just try out some sounds. So a really cool, you know, old school sound there. Let's do big pad. And like Europa, I just love how rich Parsec sounds. Let's do piano and analog strings. Because this is where things get real interesting. So we've got a grand piano here, and let's drop it down an octave. Start messing with the filters and modifiers and stuff. I think we need to turn on the filter somehow. I forget how to do that. So we can mellow the sound out, add a modifier. Let's do... And check that out. That's from a piano sound. How crazy is that? Just a very, very cool synth that I need to spend a bit more time exploring. So we can kind of redraw things in here. Let's maybe get this a bit less crazy. So now we're adding an envelope to the individual partials, which is just like such a ridiculously cool feature. Let's up the character, it might be a bit more obvious. And this is all coming from that same piano sound we started with. Yeah, and then I really cannot remember for the life of me how to get this filter going. Not the back, is it? No. I guess that's it. I'm not sure why I'm seeing off here. Maybe I'm just not remembering this right. Anyways, this is very, very cool, and you can balance between both generators here, so we could add in like a guitar sound. Which this with a bigger reverb, you would have pretty much every sci-fi track ever. Let's add an envelope here. There we go. Now we should have a pretty classic spacey sound. Very, very cool stuff. As a vocoder, you can actually use the audio in as a modifier, so you can use this as a vocoder, which is really, really fun. I had some percussion stuff I was doing with this earlier, and it sounded really, really cool. Yeah, and that's, I guess, a really low-level overview of Parsec. There's just way too much stuff to go into with this because, you know, like Europa, it's just incredibly powerful. We can go through some random presets, though, because there's some pretty cool stuff. Chime piano. Except we have two of them now. Okay, delete, delete. Cymbal piano. Yeah, there's some keys and stuff. Pads is really where I think this thing shines. Really, really cool stuff. Let's see, what else is there that was cool? Porcelain strings, I think. Which, yeah, like I said, just a really cool way to approach, you know, everything that this is doing. It's a whole lot of stuff. Let's see. Effects and build-ups are some really weird... things, just because, you know, this is additive rebuilding of things, so, you know, there's a lot of power to do cool stuff. Let's go through a couple more effects here. That one's really neat. Let's see what else. Anything? What's this one? And yeah, so you could actually go through and automate the X and Y controls here as well in your DAW, which very, very powerful stuff. And the FM filter, if my understanding is correct, the Y control here is the oscillator or generator FMing the filter. And then this is your cutoff point, which is a really interesting sound. Filter FM is cool stuff anyway. It makes some really interesting, you know, distorted, raspy things. But in here, it just, I don't know, something about it sounds cooler. Very, very good sounding synth. And yeah, I think that is pretty much everything I wanted to go through. That's different. I guess we can take a look at the drum sequencer, because that's pretty much the only other thing. Yeah, so, you know, overall quick stream, but, you know, like I said, just wanted to show off the extra stuff since they sent me the suite license. And I'm sure as I become a bit more familiar with everything, you know, this will be a frequent appearance, especially Grain. Grain, Europa, and Thor and Maelstrom are probably some of my favorites. I really, really like the way they sound. Yeah, let's go ahead and grab the drum sequencer. No? Oh boy, what did I do wrong? Maybe you just have to load something in first. Okay, so... Oh, it doesn't start at the end automatically. Oh, and you could record, so you could... Maybe not. Don't know why that's not working. So yeah, if you need a little, drum sequencer, I wonder if you can drag the pattern out. Nope, that's not what I wanted to do. No? Maybe you can. I should probably read the manual. I'm not sure if you can just drag the MIDI out. So in some drum sequencers, you can like draw in a sequence, and if you like it, then you could drag it out and get the MIDI clip and drop that in your DAW. So let's go to the note generator really quick. And let's see if we can't make a very, very quick generative patch before I go play some Arma. I'm like obsessed with Arma again recently. I really need to not do that to myself. Okay, sure, let's just do monotone. And then players, note generator. All right, can we make a random like generative patch? So we can snap it to a scale, go. Okay. That's actually really nice. I dig that. Quad note is poly. Yeah, I know. Yeah, so you could open this up into something. Let's grab a poly synth instead. Let's do a Maelstrom. So I don't know if this is totally random. Seems like it is, but it's almost like generating like a Euclidean rhythm, but instead I think it's just entirely randomized. So yeah, as you pointed out, this is polyphonic, so let's turn that off for a minute. Yeah, so this is polyphonic, so you know you could use this to generate a polyphonic synth thing, which what we could do really quickly before I go play video games, let's go ahead and no. So this was in C minor. Cool. All right, let's let this run. Okay, and goodbye. Enough of that. Enough of that nonsense. Okay, and then reset device, go. And we can just boop this on in here. Oh, do I have to bounce it first? Okay, that was weird. I'm not sure why I can't do that. I guess I have to do it this way. Yeah, I know. Okay, so now we bounce out our randomized sequence and we can throw this into grain here, and grain is dope. Let's feed this into the filter and drop the master volume slightly. I could just listen to that forever. I love grain so much. But that's a really cool way to do that. That's actually something I do personally quite a bit when I'm generating pads for like my own songs, is I will run a generative sequence in Voltage Modular. Or now I could do this inside of the Rack VST, which is cool because now I could use all the like Reason instruments to do like a generative thing. And you can stack them together as well. So, you know, you could run a drum sequencer plus the quad note generator plus whatever and run it and stack it to multiple instruments and whatever. Or you could run multiple quad note generators at the same time, I'm pretty sure, and it wouldn't mess up anything. So you could generate a random sequence, drop it into grain, and get these really epic, super cool pad things. So yeah, I think that will pretty much do it for this stream. I know this was a bit shorter, but like I said, just wanted to show off some of the Reason Suite stuff. And then I'm going to be, you know, out of town and stuff for the weekend, so not really going to have time to do this again anytime soon. So yeah, if anyone has any questions or whatever, we will do that now. Otherwise, thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll be reposted again as always. UVI Falcon 2 giveaway coming up as well. Just posted an announcement that is going to be on November 8th. Let me double check that. Yeah, Friday, November 8th. Otherwise, yeah, this has been Reason 11 Suite, which is available for $599, which is a very, very good deal considering the ridiculous amount of stuff you'd get. This would keep you busy for a long time. Otherwise, Reason 11, your starting point, $99, gets you a ton of instruments, and like I said earlier, cheaper than most of the standard synths, and comes with just as much, if not more, power. Plus, the Reason rack is semi-modular, so you can plug things in together and get really, really worth it. So let's take a look at a chat stuff. Bad Wi-Fi, can you repeat your answer to my question about your favorite single after Nightwalker? Oh, I didn't get that question. My favorite single after Nightwalker. I think one of my favorite songs I've ever done was Fear. With Alicia, at least. There is something about her vocal performance in Fear, especially towards the end of the song, and just the way that song came together. I love Fear so much. Outside of that, the latest one I released, I really, really like The Oracle. I just love the mood of that one. And then I think probably, one of my favorite ones, just like in terms of like personal meaning, is The New Divide. I wrote the lyrics for that one. I really like that one. Alicia did a killer job with the vocals on that as well. And the music, I think, turned out really good as well. But yeah, probably The Oracle. Just as far as like where I'm at now, I really, really like just the atmosphere that song gives off. I wish I actually lost the session file for that, and I was going to like tweak the mix a bit. But I ended up not saving the file in the right place and accidentally deleting it, so I didn't get to do like a different mix down on it. But it turned out really well, I think. I really, really like that one so far. And I've got some new stuff that I really like that's coming eventually. Really have to try playing with Polar and Grain. Yeah, I'll have to mess with Polar a bit later. Just haven't had all that much time to dive into it. I was mostly trying to dig into the new instruments and suite, just because that was kind of like the meat and potatoes content. But like I said, as I get more familiar with everything, I'm sure the Reason rack will make quite a few appearances in the future, just because I really, really like some of the effects and sounds. The vocoder too, I used the hell out of that today. For work, I was doing sound design for a bunch of like kind of like hip hop / future bass sounds. So I used that vocoder quite a bit today to make a lot of the percussion sounds and a lot of the snares and stuff. Sweet drone reverb grain thingy. Yeah, no, for sure. Like I said, that's a great way to generate some really cool atmospheres. Just run a generative sequence and then run it into a granular synth. One I really like, you may have seen before on the channel, is Cecilia 5. It's a free program. It's not a VST, but it's a free program. It's like Paul Stretch, but different, and you can just stretch things to insane lengths. And I've made some really, really cool pads that way. Try Crusher X, Sheer Granular Madness. I haven't heard of that. Let's take a look really quick. Oh, that looks interesting. Oh, hey, Robert Dudzik. I love that guy. Huh. Yeah, I've never heard of that actually, but that looks really, really cool. I'll have to give that a shot sometime. But yeah, so I think otherwise that's going to do it. And then I'm going to go play Arma. Been playing Ravage. If anyone here plays Arma 3 / mods, I love Ravage so much. Really want to get back into Wasteland though. I might try Wasteland again at some point. But yeah, I will be back next week doing streaming stuff and whatnot. Falcon giveaway week after next week. Week after next week. So yeah, Falcon 2 from UVI, November 8th is going to be the giveaway for that. I should have a video coming out soon about that. I got to film it and whatever. But yeah, other than that, I think that'll do it for Reason 11 Suite. I might do one more stream in the future, just kind of showing stuff. But I think the next stream I do with Reason stuff will probably just try and make something with all the Reason plugins now that I've kind of shown them all on, you know, like I said, hopefully give myself a bit of time to get to know a few of them a bit better. But yeah, I guess we'll leave this open for 5 more minutes in case anyone has any remaining questions, comments, or concerns. Once again, my phone has decided to send me every notification I've gotten in the past hour all at once. But yeah, other than that, you know, like I said, have a good Wednesday evening. Yeah. All right. Any more questions or whatnot? I guess if not, we'll call it a day. Pretty cool stuff, though. Part of me really quickly wants to like duplicate that towel reverb and put a towel chorus in between. Is that ridiculous of me? Okay, this may get really, really insane. Let's throw a limiter on the end. Let's grab a quick filter just in case. Okay, so this is that same generative thing. I bet low pass, that would sound real spooky. Oh, that's ridiculous. Okay, if you could release your own VST effect, what do you wish it could be? How would you make it unique? That's really not something I've ever thought of. I don't know. With how much I like reverb, I would just really like a reverb VST. Like, I don't know if I could make a reverb, because like I've tried to make reverbs a few times in like synth edit, and just made like really crappy reverb algorithms that sound awful. But I made a couple that ended up sounding okay. I guess I would really just like to make some kind of like Venus Theory reverb, which I guess I would make it like a modular reverb unit. Probably with like a delay effect, a reverb, and a saturation. Because I like to put distortion, like saturation after reverbs a lot, is like a main, like one of the big tricks I use all the time in my sound design, just like in my own music. So I guess some kind of like modular reverb VST would be really cool. Just, you know, you could make it a shimmer reverb, or you could make it a, I don't know, crunchy, super distorted reverb, you know, something like that. So I don't know. Never really thought about it, but I guess just knee-jerk answer, probably some kind of like weird reverby thing. Are you maybe planning to do an in-depth Europa video, or did you already do that and I missed it? So my bad, just came back on like, oh, no worries. Maybe, I don't know, doing like super in-depth stuff just takes a lot of time, and a lot of like, you know, note-taking and editing and whatnot. So maybe, I guess it just would depend on how much interest there is in that. I would have to sit down and like run through YouTube, and see, you know, are there videos doing that? Did they do well? Are people actually searching for it? but not totally out of the question. You know, if there's demand for it, then yeah, I could sit down and do like a here is Europa and here are cool things you can do with it. But I mean, the main purpose of my channel anymore, I think, is kind of just more sound design stuff slash, as always, you know, tutorials I wish I had or things I find interesting. But, you know, maybe. Because yeah, I get asked about stuff like that a lot of like, you know, beginner mixing courses or, you know, things like that. And it's like, I would love to do them, but it's either oversaturated or there's not enough demand, or frankly, it's just not something I'm totally into doing. And I would rather not spend time doing something I don't really care about. You know, I find it more interesting to be like, oh, here is a thing you can do, or hey, you should try this, or hey, you know, it took me 5 years to figure this out. Here's how you do it. You know, I wish somebody told me how to do this. So, you know, we'll see. But yeah, I think that's it for questions here, guys. So I am going to go play some Arma. UVI Falcon 2 giveaway, November 8th, 5 p.m. Stay tuned here. There will be a video shortly. I will be away for the weekend, so probably won't be online all that much. Streaming probably resume next week. I'm not totally sure with what. But if I don't stream again, November 8th is going to be the next one, 5 p.m. Chicago time, UVI Falcon 2 giveaway. Details coming relatively soon. But other than that, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the stream, checking out the Reason 11 Suite instruments with me. Very, very cool stuff. Like I said, this stuff will be showing up more in the future. And yeah, I think that's it. So thanks for watching and have a good night.